This is Geneaology from Britain, Hebrew Nations. We are now about to discuss the genealogy of the blessings, how the blessings evolved, how they came, how they developed, as if to say, from one patriarch to the other. How the blessings that were given to Abraham, Isaac and Jacob eventually came down to the 12 tribes and especially to Joseph. And if there was any differences between them, and at all events, this is an interesting discussion. You will enjoy it, and incidentally, we will be able to go back over once again and to see what exactly these blessings were, and at least gain some understanding of them and see how they are applicable to the present situation in our time, and how they prove that the lost 10 tribes are amongst Western nations, because that is where the lost 10 tribes are. The 10 tribes today are to be found as coherent entities that gave historical expression to the Israelite origin amongst Western nations. Originally there were 12 tribes of Israel. These 12 tribes of Israel separated in two different sections. The northern section comprised 10 tribes. It was an independent country, an independent kingdom, whereas in the south was the kingdom of Judah, which comprised Judah and the tribe of Benjamin and Levi, and also remnants, minorities from the other tribes. And the Assyrians conquered the northern kingdom of the 10 tribes and took all of them into exile, and they disappeared from history. They became the lost 10 tribes of Israel. Those who remained in the kingdom of Judah became the ancestors of the Jewish people. And so we have a situation whereby the majority of the Israelite nation disappeared. They lost consciousness of who they were, and traces of them in historical records are also lost, or not lost, confused, as if to say, covered over. Concealed is a better word. They were concealed under other identities. We show what these identities were. We prove it through historical records what nations were comprised to some degree or other of these Israelites, and how they moved to the north, and from the north they moved to the west, and eventually converged in Western Europe. And this is confirmed by biblical evidence, by the prophecies in the Bible, throughout the Bible. But one of the most important sources is the very beginning of the Bible, the book of Genesis, the first book of the Bible. And in the book of the Bible we first come across, we are introduced to the Hebrew nation, we are introduced to the Patriarchs, to Abraham. Abraham was the first Hebrew. To Abraham was promised that he should become a great nation, and you will all the families of the earth be blessed. See Genesis 12, 2-3. I will make my covenant between me and you, and will multiply you exceedingly. Genesis 17:2, and I will make nations of you, and kings shall come out of you. And I will establish my covenant between me and you, and your seed after you in their generations, for an everlasting covenant, to be a God unto you and to your seed after you. Genesis 17, verses 6-7. There, that was Abraham. So we see these blessings given to Abraham. Abraham was promised that he should become a great and mighty nation, and he should be exceedingly multiplied. Abraham gave birth to 2 sons, Ishmael and Isaac. But Ishmael was not to receive the blessing. Ishmael traditionally was the forefather of many of the Arabs. Isaac, instead of Ishmael, received the covenant promise, but to him developed the promised blessing. God says, my covenant will I establish with Isaac, in Genesis 17:2-1. He says again, I will establish my covenant with him, with Isaac, for an everlasting covenant, and with his seed after him, Genesis 17:19. Also, in Isaac shall your seed be called, Genesis 21:21. So we see we have Abraham and we have Isaac, and Isaac is the one who receives the blessings. Isaac begat 2 twins, Esau and Jacob. And of Esau it was said, by your sword shall you live, and you shall serve your brother. Esau lost the birthright. Esau technically was born first, but he lost any rights he had to be the firstborn. This was taken by Jacob, by his brother. Jacob became the receiver of the covenant blessing that had been given to Isaac and to Abraham before him. By your sword, concerning Esau, it was said, by your sword shall you live and shall serve your brother, Genesis 27:40. And Esau traditionally became father or forefather of some of the early settlers of Rome, of the Roman Empire, possibly of Sparta, and also of Germany, or some of the Germanic tribes, and some of the ruling elites, the nobility of continental Europe. And they, in this system, they were a warlike people, always fighting each other, duels and all kinds of things like that, chivalry and crusades and who knows what. And this was part of their culture, always warfare. This was what they lived by, this is what they ruled by. It says in Jacob, and Esau, it says, and Esau hated Jacob because of the blessing wherewith his father blessed him. In other words, Esau hated Jacob because of the blessing wherewith his father blessed Jacob. See Genesis 27:41. And so we have the blessing coming to Jacob. Jacob received the blessings promised to Abraham and unto Isaac. The children of Jacob were to become the chosen people. Isaac blessed Jacob. Isaac said to Jacob, but concerning Jacob, God Almighty bless you and make you fruitful and multiply you, that you may be a multitude of peoples in the plural, and give you the blessing of Abraham to you and to your seed with you. In other words, Isaac expressly said that Jacob was to receive the blessing of Abraham that Isaac had received, and then he passed on to Jacob. But Jacob was also given the additional name Israel. Your name shall be no more called Jacob, but Israel. As a prince have you power with God and with men, and have prevailed. Genesis 32:8. Your name is Jacob, your name shall not be called any more Jacob, but Israel shall be your name. And he called his name Israel, Genesis 35:10. Jacob is 12 sons, now the sons of Jacob were 12, Genesis 36:22. So here we have it, Jacob was renamed Israel. Israel is another name for Jacob. Jacob had 12 sons. These 12 sons became the forefathers of the tribes of Israel. The tribes of Israel, named after the sons of Jacob, of Israel, were Reuben, the firstborn, Simeon, Levi, Judah, or Yehuda, Issachar, Zebulun, Joseph, Benjamin, Dan, Naphtali, Gad, and Asher. All the sons of Israel received a blessing from their father. Everyone according to his blessing, he blessed them. Genesis 49:28. Everyone according to their blessing, everyone according to his individual potentiality, to his individual propensity, to it, suited to his character, so did he receive the blessing that was destined for him. And so this is where we have it. We have Abraham, we have Isaac, we have Jacob, and then we have the 12 sons. And so we have the 12 sons, and each and every one of the 12 sons receives a blessing, receives the inheritance that has been promised to them. They are all part of the covenant nations. But there's an additional factor. In addition to this blessing that they receive, we also have the idea of the birthright of the firstborn. And it was Reuben technically was the firstborn, but he lost it. He sinned, and so as we are told in 1 Chronicles 5 verses 1 to 2, Reuben lost his birthright, and then we are told that Judah prevailed above his brothers, and of him comes the chief ruler. But the birthright was Joseph's. So now we have a dichotomy, as if to say. Judah prevailed, he became greater than his brothers, and of him was to become the chief ruler, the future Messiah, the ruler of all Israel, the rightful ruler of all Israel was from the house of David. But the birthright itself was given to Joseph, and there's historically in the biblical stories and accounts and so on, throughout the Bible we see a certain tension and a rivalry between Judah and Joseph, but in the end times they will reunite, and this breach will be repaired, as we are told in Isaiah 11, chapter 11, and also in Ezekiel 37 and elsewhere in the Bible. But at all events, that is a subject for another occasion. Now we're talking about the genealogy of the blessings, and so we see that the right to the firstborn was given to Joseph, even though Judah too was granted a certain preeminence. Joseph was the one who received the right of the firstborn. Jacob blessed Joseph. He said, the blessings of your father prevailed above the blessings of my progenitors unto the utmost bound of the everlasting hills. They shall be on the head of Joseph, and on the crown of him that was separated from his brethren. See Genesis 49:6. So Joseph received not merely an extra portion as if he were the firstborn, but also an additional task and merit. And Joseph, in a sense, represents all of Israel. a great rabbi and wrote Sheila Snegglukot Brit. He said that Joseph has the aspect of Jacob above the other tribes. He is Joseph and his two sons Ephraim and Manasseh. Joseph has something of the whole of Israel within him. He as if represents them and brings their potentiality to complete fruition, and he is to receive a blessing greater than all of them together. And his blessing was to be unto the end of the everlasting hills. It says, the blessing of your father hath prevailed above the blessings of my progenitors, and the earth was bound of the everlasting hills. They shall be on the head of Joseph, and on the crown of him that was separated from his brethren. So reading between the lines, we see here two things. First of all, Joseph was to receive a blessing greater than all of the other tribes put together, and the blessing of Joseph was to extend over all the nations of the earth. That's Joseph. Joseph had two sons, Ephraim and Manasseh. Ephraim and Manasseh, these two sons, Ephraim and Manasseh, were to be granted the rights of equality to the other tribes. They were to be each counted as separate tribes in their own right, as if they were full-born sons of Jacob and not grandsons of Jacob. He says, your two sons, Ephraim and Manasseh, are mine, as Reuben and Simeon, they shall be mine, said Genesis 48:5. So Ephraim and Manasseh, the two sons of Joseph, were to receive full rights as full tribes amongst the brothers of Joseph. As he says, Jacob blessed Ephraim and Manasseh. He says, the angel which redeemed me from all evil, bless the lads, and let my name be named on them. And the name of my fathers, Abraham and Isaac, and let them grow into a multitude in the midst of the earth. And he blessed them that day, saying, and you shall yourself bless, saying, God make you as Ephraim and as Manasseh. And he said Ephraim before Manasseh. See Genesis chapter 48. The prevalence of Ephraim is repeated in Jeremiah 31:9. I am a father to Israel, and Ephraim is my firstborn. So here we see Ephraim, we had Ephraim and Manasseh, both of them were to receive the blessings of Joseph, both of them were to fulfill the task of Joseph, but the blessing given to Ephraim was greater in a sense. He was to continue the right of the firstborn. And so that is the way it goes. So we have Abraham, we have Isaac, we have Jacob. From Jacob, who was renamed Israel, we have 12 tribes. These 12 tribes, all of them receive a blessing as tribes of Israel. Joseph was to receive the right of the blessing, and within Joseph, Ephraim was to be considered the firstborn rather than Manasseh, even though Manasseh was to participate in the blessing that was given to Joseph. And this blessing was greater than that of all the other tribes put together. And these blessings were concomitant, they went together with a divine purpose. So Abraham says, Abraham shall surely become a great and mighty nation, and all the nations of the earth shall be blessed in him. Well, I know him that he will command his children, he says, after him, they shall keep the way of the Lord to do justice and judgment. The Lord may bring upon Abraham that which he has spoken of. In Genesis chapter 18, verses 18 to 19. And from this ordering of the words here, we see that Abraham shall first of all become a great and mighty nation, and all the nations of the earth shall be blessed in him. And then he will command his children, says, after them, they shall keep the way of the Lord to do justice and judgment. So first of all, they will become a great and mighty nation. That is a prerequisite, as if to say, that is a prior condition, a means to enable him to do justice and judgment is to become a great nation. Becoming a great nation was what had to happen, what would happen. The blessings were unconditional. They had to occur and had to come about. And as a result of becoming a great nation, Joseph was to be obligated, or Abraham in effect, Abraham was obligated to justice and judgment and to bring a blessing to all the nations of the earth, as all the tribes have done, but especially Joseph. And we see that tens of millions, hundreds of millions of people have not starved to death, or been massacred, or massacred each other, wiped each other out and so on. If it was not for the Western nations, especially the English-speaking peoples, the so-called Anglo-Saxon nations, had prevented them, had imposed peace upon them, or had given them food, enabled them, given them food to eat, or produced crops that were drought and disease resistance that prevented famine, as happened in the 1960s. And time after time again, they have done a lot, and a good portion of the world's population owes their very existence to these people. And any concepts we have in the Western world concerning justice and judgment, even though there's a lot of atrocities, a lot of injustices still continue, somewhere along the line, somewhere in our worldwide consciousness, we have ideas of justice, judgment, and rightful dealing and how things should be done, and these do have an effect, these do have an influence, and their origin and their spread and their enforcement can be traced in most cases to the 10 tribes of Israel, especially to those associated with Joseph. And this was the quality of the 10 tribes. We have heard that the kings of the house of Israel are merciful kings. Malchizedek, this is in Hebrew. They said the servants of the king of Assyria said this. 1 Kings 20:31. And then they were speaking about Ahab and kings of Israel, who by Israeli standards, by biblical standards, were actually tyrants, were actually bad kings, evil kings. But in the eyes of the Gentiles, they were merciful kings. So because relatively speaking, that is what they were. And they are always better on the whole. Not always, but in most cases they've been better than the other peoples around them, especially when we take into cognizance, we factor in the environmental standards and the standards of the peoples around them. They're always a little bit better than the others, and always pull the others upward as they themselves ascend forward. And so that's it. Another point we should mention is that the prophet Amos condemned Judah. He condemned Judah for not keeping the law. He says because they saw, and then he condemned Israel, meaning the 10 tribes, because they sold the righteous for silver. That is, he says that in Amos 1:4-6. So great rabbinical authority, the Nassim, he pointed out that Judah was supposed to keep the law. That was what Judah was supposed to do. That was the task of Judah. That is still the task of Judah, along with other things, other matters, including establishing the state of Israel and so on. But Judah still has the task of keeping the law. Where Judah did not keep the law, as Amos said, Judah was condemned, because that was what Judah was supposed to do. And what were the 10 tribes condemned for? For not enforcing social righteousness, because that is what they were supposed to do, and that is what they have done or did do in a historical sense. And this is one of the proofs, one of several proofs out of very many, showing that these nations are descended from the lost tribes of Israel, or at all events the lost tribes of Israel are amongst them, and that's where lost tribes are to be searched for. And these proofs, along with others with it, have to be taken together with all the other evidence and everything considered as one complementary whole. Thank you very much. This is Geneaology. I've been speaking to you from Jerusalem, the capital of Israel. I've been speaking to you on behalf of Brit Am Hebrew nations. Thank you.